It is SportsLine on News Channel 5 Plus on this Tuesday evening. Open phones. You can take it wherever you'd like to go in sports. From the Midday 180, I'm Jonathan Hutton with Chad Withrow. No Paul Kaharski tonight. We couldn't ask him to come in for the second time in a month. Asking too much of PK.
I think they also have a limit on bald guys that they can put on TV. So you only have one on like every month or so.
There's only so much makeup to go around,
yeah,
right?
He'll be back next week. I mean, yeah, there's only so many ways that you can take the glare off the bald head. So he can be back in a month. So he'll be back at some point.
Different ways to communicate with the show. You can give us a call, 615-737-7767. Follow us on Twitter at Midday180, where you can live tweet the show. We'll read some tweets on air. And maybe some regular callers from the show, middays, noon to 3 on 104.5 The Zone, will give us a call again tonight, much like our next guest. We've had some requests since our last show here on News Channel 5 Plus with Midday 180 for more regulars to call. And one of those guys was Johnny the Poet, who joins us now. Johnny, how are you?
Well, hello, Mr. Hutton. Good evening, Chad Withrow. It's your local sports poet calling to the world's greatest sports show. Now, I put on a coat and tie, and it's all just for you. I mean, what do you expect? It's my television debut. It's been a tough week in sports. Our home team lost by 1. Now, I did speak with Herschel about it. He said, well, that weren't no fun. Before we feel poisoned by the Kool-Aid we drank at lunch, this year is tough to swallow, but next year, Hawaiian punch. And to the Vols fan, be patient as well. You've got a one-game winning streak to ride. Perhaps this bye week will help you, in fact, roll over the tide. And finally, friends, today, a coaching legend retired. Or as candidate Trump might have put it, Steve Spurrier, you're fired.
Well played.
John Hannum, Johnny the Poet, always delivers for us on Midday 180.
Not every show has a resident poet.
It always has the night before Christmas cadence to it.
Yes.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. It's very calming.
Always, yes.
It soothes me. Like, I want to take a nap after I hear it, but it's always very well said. And that's not a diss, poet. Please call back anytime. But I'm saying the cadence of it is very calming, very soothing. But I take pride in the fact that not many sports shows have a resident poet, and we have one. And he's always very timely. Love the line about Donald Trump and you're fired to Steve Spurrier. Well done, Poet Johnny.
We go to Ronald next. Ronald, thanks for calling tonight.
Hey, thank you all. I just have one question about the Titans. The best running back I've seen in a preseason was Cobb out of Minnesota. What happened to him?
Who in Minnesota?
Oh, Cobb. He is on the injured reserve recall list. And, Ronald, he'll be able to return to practice. In fact, he may be able to return to practice next week for the Titans, but cannot return to a game until week 8. So that's where Cobb is, David Cobb from University of Minnesota, one of the Titans draft picks.
My mind immediately went to the Minnesota Vikings when he said that.
I was thinking that initially too.
But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think he'll return to practice in week 6 and then can return to games in week 8 because he's on the injured reserve recall list. And again, teams are able to do that with one player each year for preseason injuries. If it's not going to be a season-ending injury, you don't want to have to put a player on injured reserve for 16 weeks. They've made this roster spot available now for players, and David Cobb was the player that the Titans chose to use that on. It's the first time they've used that designation on a player, so look for him midway through the season. Let's go to Jay on line 1. Jay, you're next up.
Hey, man, big fan of y'all.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope Paul Spurrier's doing good tonight. But
he's doing well.
He's probably at Arby's.
I got a question. I know I got a first cousin in South Carolina, and he's hearing a lot about names down there. The Western Kentucky coach, I can't think of his name.
Brom.
Jeff Brom.
Yeah, what Steve Spurrier did, I think's wrong. I think, I lost a lot of respect for the way he went out, and I'll just hang up and listen. Thanks.
I tend to agree with what he's saying, Chad. I love Steve Spurrier, first and foremost. Let me say that. But I just don't understand why you quit in the middle of a season on your team. You recruited these players. You've got a locker room full of guys that maybe they're not getting the message across to the players. But I think that sends the completely wrong message from a head coach to step down in the middle of the year and just say, hey, guys, I'm going to step away with 6 games left in the season. Not like they're going to a bowl game. At least it doesn't appear that's going to be the case. I think he could have very easily said, I'm retiring at the end of the year, announced it, and let things just fall into place. And instead, he leaves with, at least for me, a sour taste because of the way things ended.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this, honestly, because there's one school of thought where I agree with you. You know, he kind of quit on his team. Steve Spurrier's never handled losing very well. He did not handle the situation in Washington well when he was in the NFL, so this is another example of that. But another part of me thinks maybe he's in part doing this for some of his coaches out there to at least give them a shot. I don't know how much of a shot it is, but give them a 6-game tryout to try to keep their jobs, whereas if he knew he was going to retire at season's end, they have no chance because the new coach that's hired is going to bring in all of his assistants, so they'd be out the door. Maybe that's the case. You know, first off, when I heard Sean Elliott was the interim coach, I immediately thought of the San Antonio Spurs small forward. I was like, he's a football
great
coach
jumper.
now? Yeah, I had no idea. He got a great baseline 3-point shot. But no, I think there's 2 different ways to look at it. I have a lot of respect for Steve Spurrier. He's one of the true, genuine characters in all of sports. He revolutionized college football. And for people from the South, that's the guy you look to as kind of that historic figure, especially for people our age. You know, late 20s to mid 40s, Steve Spurrier was the guy for years and years in the SEC. So sad to see him go. But I also look at it and I say to myself, the best way to make these players successful is if you come out yesterday and you say, I'm retiring at season's end, but we're going to go out and have fun and win some games. And then suddenly the real old ball coach comes back out. Your players are playing loose. You're excited. Play calling maybe changes up a little bit. You get a little bit more daring in games. To me, if they're going to have a successful finish to the season, that's how you do it. I don't know how this is going to lead to a successful end of the season if you're truly thinking about your players and not yourself in this situation.
I could completely see a scenario where Spurrier, just hypothetically here, announces that, and they go on the road and win at Florida.
Yeah.
Or pick up a win along the way that you just weren't expecting because they're playing for their coach. I was very surprised for him, not last night that he was retiring, but for him this morning to get up at the podium and say, you know, things weren't going that well. Time for me to step aside. And he's always said when things went south, he would tell himself it's time to step away. I don't think he likes recruiting anymore, but he's not going to have to do that if he just says 6 games from now I'm out. It wouldn't matter anyway.
Well, and one of the reasons that he gave for not wanting to end it now was for recruiting, that it was only going to help their recruiting. Well, let me ask this question. How is it going to help your recruiting if now the players you're recruiting that were asking, hey, you're 70, are you going to be around for 3 or 4 years, are now asking, hey, you're an interim head coach. You don't even know if you're going to be here, so why am I listening to you and not someone else? That's the message now they're going to be getting from recruits and from rival coaches out there recruiting against them, is that, you know, Sean Elliott and these coaches, you have no assurances they're going to be there when you get there. So that's what they're going to have to fight against now.
And now look at it from a Vanderbilt perspective, because that's who the Commodores will play this Saturday, will be the South Carolina Gamecocks. They'll be on the road in Columbia. It'll be an interesting atmosphere. Interim head coach Derek Mason said today that they're just going to approach the game like they normally would with Spurrier or without Spurrier as the head coach. But this sets up Vanderbilt in a great spot, coming off a road win against MTSU where they came from behind in the 4th quarter to score 14 points. Then they had a bye week last week to get rested, healthy, rejuvenated. They're playing well defensively. This is a great spot for Vanderbilt to be in.
Well, and if you remember that day that South Carolina got drubbed in Athens by Georgia, and then I think Vanderbilt beat Austin Peay, that day I started to think to myself, I think South Carolina might be the worst team in the SEC East and not Vanderbilt. And then what happened after that? Vanderbilt played very well in Oxford against Ole Miss, had a chance, late in that game, only down a score or so. Their defense is really good. I think they're playing a lot harder this year, a lot better under Derek Mason. I thought Vanderbilt had a great shot at winning this game before Steve Spurrier resigned. I really think they have a great shot at winning this game now that Steve Spurrier is not the coach. I like Vanderbilt a little bit going into this game right now. I thought they were going to win it before. Now I definitely think they're going to win it now with all this confusion.
I do too. Ken is next up here on SportsLine. Hey, Ken.
Yeah, how you guys doing? I like you. You and Chad, Jonathan, y'all are a great team. Did I hear you say a while ago, though, that there's not going to be any more SportsLine, or you're going to switch?
No.
What's the deal?
No. There will be SportsLine. I don't know what you heard me say, but yeah, there's going to be SportsLine.
Just blame it on me, Ken. I said it. I apologize.
It's not going anywhere.
SportsLine. It'll be right here. Yeah.
When will Steve be back?
Steve will be back. Last I checked, he hopefully will be back in a month or so. So it's still week to week with him with his prognosis. He's doing much better since the car accident. And for those that don't know, he's in a car accident in Kansas City when the Titans played the Chiefs in week 3 of the preseason, and has been out since. I've been very honored to be able to step in and do whatever I can here while he's out, but we certainly wish him a speedy recovery. And he's in good spirits. He's back in Nashville recovering well.
Good. He's a great guy.
He is.
Both of you guys are doing a great job. I think you do an awesome job on the radio, too. On Steve Spurrier, I don't know if anybody's mentioned this or not, but he may have a medical condition. I don't know. Sometimes the people need to, not say nothing about that. But
well, maybe so, but he could have also, if that's the case, Ken, he could have also stood up there today without saying, hey, we're losing, so I'm quitting. Because that's essentially what he said.
And also, Ken, he could have said, he said, I'm resigning, not retiring. He left open the possibility of coaching high school. So I think you can throw out any possible health concerns if a guy's standing up there at 70 saying, hey, I want to be a consultant one day. I want to be a part of a team, that he's going to miss being part of a football team, and he may coach in high school. So I wouldn't think that's the case. And I agree with you, Ken. You hate to speculate in case something like that's going on, and certainly no one wishes that upon anyone. But in a press conference, that's what you say if that's the case. Hey, I'm getting up there in years a little bit. There's something going on here I don't really want to talk about right now, but that's why I'm stepping down. I don't think there's anything going on. He talked about getting off the treadmill right before that press conference, if you remember, and how much he works out every day. He said he'd be working out in the facility that afternoon. Right. Remember, because they said, hey, Coach, can you come by practice? And he said, hey, I'm going to be around here. In fact, I'll be working out in the facility. So
and 2 months
I don't
ago,
think there's anything going on health-wise.
2 months ago, he held a press conference to defend his age.
Yeah.
Because people were negative recruiting. His competition, negative recruiting, to where they were talking about his age, and he felt the need to come out publicly and defend himself.
Well, and if anyone has seen that video of him working out on the medicine ball, you know that he's got great range of motion. So there's nothing to worry about there. The sit-ups on the medicine ball, you know right away he's
hard to believe he's 70 years old, though, when you see him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been around for, we were talking about
until he walks. And that's the one thing, you realize, and if you watch the 30 for 30 documentary, you realize when he how much pain he went through in his career, playing for bad Tampa Bay Buccaneers teams, for bad 49ers teams, and the beatings that he took in those games. You see the wear and tear of an old football player when you see him walk up and down the sideline now. That's the only area where I think he looks his age, is just the way he moves around on the sideline.
Did you hear Butch Jones tell the story about the Tampa Bay Bandits autograph he received from Steve Spurrier?
No.
Oh, well, we'll tell that story when we come back. Phone lines open, 615-737-7767. 737-7767. It is SportsLine here on News Channel 5+.